Yeah. So actually, I think this is kind of a duplicate slide. Yeah. So partially because it was so successful, of course, there was a capitalist backlash to all this stuff. And we had several Red Scares in history because of the formation of socialist parties and more radical unions and things like that. So they try to associate socialist movements with the Soviet Union and scare people and things like that. And they jailed Debs for speaking out against World War I and the draft. And Republicans and Democrats essentially teamed up, right? They're like, well, we sometimes fight, but also we're both capitalists, and that's our first priority. So that's what they did. They teamed up to try to suppress independent parties, to make it harder to get on the ballot, harder to run candidates, harder to run, or harder to get funding, things like that. A lot of the issues with primaries and debates and ballot access and all were not really laws at that time period. Like, they were put into place during this time period. So a lot of the ballot access laws and all that we face today were created in this time period specifically to try to suppress independent movements because they were so successful, or certainly building towards success, if nothing else. Yeah, so and the other factor, of course, is that while they were suppressing independent parties, they also, it was kind of a carrot and stick approach, right? Stick to suppress independent voters, while at the same time you had a little bit of a carrot thing where if you joined the Democratic Party and supported the Democratic Party, and especially FDR and all, then you got the New Deal, which offered some reforms to capitalism to try to make things a little bit more palatable and better for workers and communities. And, the New Deal, of course, did a lot of good things, and that's why we remember it as kind of a positive thing forward. But also, in a sense, as FDR himself said, he saved capitalism, right? It wasn't necessarily meant to meet socialist demands. It was meant to water down socialist demands and try to keep capitalism in power and going.